I have been working online with students for well over 5 years now, and I'm preparing this video for you to share with you some of the technology that I use and some of the strategies that I use in implementing the Cracking the ABC Code program. Obviously, you need some form of communication, and there are quite a few different technologies you can use for that. So you could use Zoom, for example, or you could use Skype, Hangout, FaceTime or Messenger, and if all else fails, you can use the telephone and put it on speaker. We're first going to look at Zoom and the different functions that are available in Zoom, and then we are going to look at using Skype in conjunction with an e-whiteboard, and the e-whiteboard that we're going to be looking at is Scribbler. Now, both of these have very similar functions in terms of what you can do with them.
Hi, this is Julie from AT Apps together with Dr. Lillian Fawcett from Cracking the ABC Code to show you how to use Zoom for online lessons. To create an account is very easy with Zoom. Just search for Zoom Australia and you'll find here it is. It is actually zoom.us, the website. Go up here, sign up, it's free. And you would just create an account on this page. I've already created an account, so I'm going to go into sign in. And here you can see my account here. Here on the left hand side, I'm going to go onto meetings, and we can see all of my lessons already booked in for my students. So if I'm going to create a new lesson appointment time, I go to schedule a new meeting. Then I set the date and the time, set the duration. I strongly recommend that you enable a waiting room. That means that when you're doing student lessons back to back, you can have a few minutes of carryover between one to another. Otherwise, if you don't put that in, you could have a problem. So I'm going to click on save. And then what I like to do is go down here to copy the invitation. Copy the meeting invitation. Then I would go into my email account to send an email to the person who will be attending the meeting. I tend to highlight the meeting ID in red so that it's easier for parents to see to enter that when they need it. And then we click send.
I have logged in using the link that Julie sent me, and now I'm just waiting for Julie to start hosting the meeting.
When we're ready to start the lesson, we click on start this meeting. And then we open Zoom. So you can see there's my lesson heading, and down here is the toolbar for you to control a range of things.
This is a close-up of the main controls that you will see at the bottom of your screen.
Unmute yourself, obviously, so that they can hear you. Turn on the video so that they can see you. Now we can see here that we've got the video going. And here you can see that my student has entered the room. So I'm going to admit the student into the room. So she's connected to the audio. Hello, Lillian.
Hello, how are you going, Julie?
Great, thanks. How are you?
Excellent. Very
good. So just going back down here at the bottom, so now I'm going to go here to share screen, and I can choose here if it's going to be the screen that we were just on. I can have a whiteboard and all sorts of different programs there that I've got running. So I'm going to go to just the main screen again, share, and now Lillian will be able to see my screen any second.
I can see it now already.
So then I can just launch into my lesson, bring in the worksheet that we're going to be doing, and if my student has a touchscreen computer, they can write on that worksheet or that sort of thing. Down at the bottom here, I'm going to say that multiple participants can share simultaneously rather than just one. And if I share my screen again, this time with a whiteboard.
This is a close-up showing the different functions that are available.
We can write on the whiteboard. So this is where we can do some spelling and dictation exercises. It obviously works much better when they have got a touch screen. drawing with a mouse isn't ideal. Lillian, can you have a go at drawing on that screen for us?
Up at the top, I think there is the toolbar.
A toolbar allowing me to annotate,
You
draw.
can go onto the draw. Perfect.
This is a close-up of the different drawing tools. So the card.
There we go.
Now if we have a look here at this toolbar, but here we can see that there's the option here for, there you go, remote control.
This is a close-up of the share control functions.
So I use this for assistive technology. Sometimes I need to control the student's screen and computer myself, so I can do that with that remote control option. If I wanted to clear everything that was on that whiteboard, I would click on clear all drawings. I've got the option there, all drawings, or my drawings, or the viewer's drawings. So I'm going to clear all there. And I'm going to change what I'm sharing. So I'm going to do stop share, then come here, and then I can share a particular program that I might be using, or a particular folder or something like that as well. And if I go back to the screen and share that one.
Can I write on this?
You should be able to, yes.
But I have to go up to view options again, do I?
Yes, to annotate.
And then
So I can draw on that.
Some students, we might want them to do dictation by typing, so they would click on text, click on the screen, and then they can type their sentence. And we can give them feedback on that. And if we need to change from that mode, remember we just need to click on the mouse so that we can go out and change different things. When you finish the lesson, you click here onto stop share and down here to end meeting for all, and then you would go into your next student meeting. When students are accessing your Zoom lesson on an iPad, this is the app that they need, Zoom Cloud Meetings. So they would open that one up, click on join a meeting, put in your meeting ID that you've sent them on the email. The teacher needs to admit them into the lesson. Then your student needs to call using the internet audio, and we can either share our content with them. So if I click here as the teacher on share screen, I can give them a whiteboard and share. Now on that whiteboard I can do some drawing, and then you can see it's coming up on the student's iPad as well. Then if I change that and share something else with them, I can share with them something to teach them, and then you can see they're saying that on their iPad. And then if I want them to write on that, it's a bit confusing because we've got so many copies here of the screen, but down here this is where the student would turn their pen on, and then they can write on the screen, and I will see that on my screen as the teacher as well. So I'm going to stop that share. Then I want the student to be sharing with me, so they will tap on the screen, go to share content at the top, share their screen. Now it depends on which operating system they're using on the iPad. With the older one this may not work, but with the newer ones it will. When the student clicks on start broadcast, then we will be able to see on our Zoom screen the app that the student is actually using. So if we're teaching them a writing lesson, for example, on Clicker Docs, this is an app I use for most of my primary students to support their writing. Then they can do their writing and we can be coaching them in that for the lesson online. You can also record the lesson here if you needed a copy of it, and when you've finished you click on end meeting.
Now let's look at how we could use Skype in conjunction with an e-whiteboard, and you'll find that many of the features are very similar to Zoom, except for the fact that you're running two platforms. One difference with Skype compared to Zoom is that once you have set up your contact, it is easy for your client to contact you and vice versa without needing to set up meeting requests. Once you've Skyped your client, or your client has Skyped you, there are a couple of features that are really worth knowing about. One feature is the screen share. So if you scroll down to the bottom of the page with your cursor, you will see two squares together. If you press on that, you can share your screen. Make sure you press start sharing as well. So for example, you could use this feature perhaps if you wanted to talk to your student about the here, there and everywhere picture. It's also really useful if your student can use this feature as well. Press on the two squares for me.
I can't see two squares.
Okay, so do you have some three dots on the bottom right hand side?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. So if you press on the three dots, then it should give you the option of sharing your screen.
Done that, and up's come up a little thing, and it says start sharing. So
excellent. It's really useful for your student to be able to share the screen if they're having technical problems, because often you can help them work through and you can see exactly what they're seeing, so it's easier for you to describe what they need to be doing. Your student could also share Paint, for example, where they are writing, maybe they're spelling words or a sentence, and equally you could be sharing this screen with them. The only problem is this type of sharing is not particularly interactive. To maximise the teaching and learning process, I would strongly recommend that you work with an e-whiteboard. Over the years I've used various versions of e-whiteboards. At the moment I'm using Scribbler. It seems a very effective medium and it's reasonably priced. You can go in and have a 14-day trial to see what it's like before you purchase the program. You also might like to have a trial with Twiddler. Twiddler is free indefinitely, but you can only use it for half an hour at a time, and you always have to send your student the link, and you can't upload anything permanently. To use the e-whiteboard effectively, I would strongly recommend that you and your student purchase a graphic tablet. Mine is a fairly old one, and along with a stylus. You get very basic ones from Officeworks for around $118. If the student has a Surface Pro or something similar where they can actually write on the screen, that will probably work as well, but I would still recommend that they get a stylus. I like students to write with a stylus rather than their finger, because I like the memory muscle retention that's associated with writing with a stylus, and it's more similar to writing with a pen, which is what they would be doing if they were writing next to you in a face-to-face lesson. If you don't have a stylus, you can get by using a mouse and having a left click as you're writing. Not as convenient and certainly not as easy as using a stylus. If you or your student has an iPad, you can also connect up your iPad using AirPlay. Then you can use the iPad with your finger, or again you can get a stylus, so you're getting that feeling of writing with a pen. Once you have set up your Scribbler, you sign in, and you'll notice if you just get a basic plan, you can set up 5 different rooms. And there's various ways that you can set these rooms up. You can set up one room for each student. You could set up a room for assessments, a room for level 2 students, a room for level 3 students. An advantage of having a room for each level is that you could upload into that room all the resources that you would need to teach that level. When you set up your room, you will notice that your guests can have various roles. I would suggest you select the participant one because it gives the student maximum flexibility. I wouldn't check the moderator one because I would leave that just for yourself. So let's go into one of these rooms to see what they look like. So here we are in a room. Now just a couple of points with regards to using Scribbler. If you or your student is working on a Mac, then you'll probably find that you need to have the screen as full screen in order for the pen to work properly. If your student is working on Windows and they're having a problem with their pen, then I suggest you go into the Wacom tablet property setting, then find mapping, and then down the bottom just make sure use Windows Ink has not been checked, and that will usually resolve any problems that you might be having. So let me show you a few features of Scribbler. First of all, you'll notice on the side here we've got participants. And at the moment I'm the only person logged in, but once your student was logged in you would see them as well. Over to the side of participants, you will see assets, and this is where you can load on all the resources that you would like to be using with your student. To load on the resources, all you need to do is to go down to this plus sign here, and you'll notice that you've got two options here: allow users to download this file and add to whiteboard after upload is completed. Mostly I don't want my students to download any of the information, so I uncheck that. Then you go to browse, you locate on your computer the resources that you want to download. So for example, the 3A Syllabification Unit 1, which is available for those people that have got the USB or CD. Open it up, upload it, and you will find it comes onto the screen. Now once you have uploaded a file, it will always be available. So I'm just going to clear this to show you what I mean. So it was a PDF that I just uploaded. There it is, 3A Syllabification Unit 1, and at any time I can drag that across to use and reuse. So once something is loaded up, you don't have to keep going back and re-uploading it again and again. If you decide at some stage that you want to get rid of some of this information that you've uploaded because it's no longer relevant, all you need to do is press on that item, then go down to bin, and it will ask you, do you sure you want to delete? And yes, and now I've got rid of it. So let me go through the basic features that are on Scribbler. First of all, you'll notice that over on the right here under the arrow, you have got two pens. I would always recommend that the student uses the first pen. It just seems to work better. Once you click on that pen, you will come up with an option to change the color. So at the moment my color is red. If I click on that, it'll open up a palette and I can change that to any color that I would like. To the right of that square, you'll notice that a thin line, that is the line thickness, and you can make it fatter or you can make it thinner. So depending on the activity that your student is doing, it might be better for them to have a fatter line or a thinner line. You can also see that there is a rubber, so I can rub out anything that I don't want, although this is probably not my preferred option because it's quite slow. You can actually get your student to type. I would suggest you change the font size to make it fairly large. So I can type in, this is an example. I can go up to the arrow and I can make the box bigger, and now I can see everything that I typed, and equally the student can see what I've typed. You also can draw lines of various colors and thicknesses. You can do squares. Again, you can change the color of that square to whichever color that you would like. You can do circles and triangles. Another really useful feature is the highlighter. For some reason, the default always seems to be white. I find yellow is the most effective, and then you can highlight parts of different text. One of the most useful tools on this side is the arrow up the top, the selector. So if I click on the selector, it enables me to select one particular part of the text. Let's just do this T here, and then I can press delete on my keyboard and it removes just that item. Or I can clear the whole screen. Imagine you have asked a student to write the word they, so they've written they up on the screen, and they write A and they realize, oh no, I've made a mistake. So the easiest way to fix that mistake is to go up to this undo, and it will take it off, and then they can write the letter that they wanted to write. This undo arrow is a particularly useful tool to use, especially when you're doing spelling rules. So for example, if you're doing the E goes away, or change Y to I, for example. So the student could write their word, so they've written the word make, for example, and then I'm going to add on the suffix ing. So first of all, I need to make the E go away, and now I can add on the suffix ing. Two other useful tools in this section is the clear page. So if I click on that, it will clear the whole page. You also have clear all pages. So if you look down the bottom here, you can see at the moment I've got 11 pages. If I click on this icon, it removes all 11 pages. Another really useful feature is the camera. So after a student has done some work, so for example, if they've done a spelling test, for example, so I've got my spelling test written down here, and after they've finished the spelling test, I can then take a photo. And once I've got that photo, I can then just print it off so that I've got a hard copy. Let me clear all of that off. Another really useful feature to be aware of is that you can actually get lines up on the screen. I always choose the largest one. Now I find that even these lines are a bit small for most students to work with, so I find it useful to get my line tool, and you can just do it in black, or if you really wanted to do it, you could color code it, but I find black is usually sufficient for most students. And I just double the amount of room that they have got. And I can just work my way down and put all these lines in. So then when the student goes to write, they can write between those two lines. Oops, and I might make that a little bit thinner because you can see that's a little bit fat to work with. So let's try that. Let me remove that because it wasn't very good. And then you can find that I can quite easily write in those lines without too much problem. And then if you want to get rid of the lines, you just need to select the delete. If you want to have a bit of fun with your students, let me delete that whole page. If you want to have a bit of fun with your students, then you can change the background color of the page. So for example, I could have green, and then over in my pen, I would need to choose, say, white, and the student can write. And a very low-tech solution is to have your student writing on a whiteboard. I want to finish by giving you some information about some assistive technology support for you and your students, and it's at ataps.com.au.
ATAPS, Assistive Technology for Education, and we've got a whole lot of services for families to support their children at home to learn how to use devices at home that they can then walk into the classroom with those tools, knowing how to use them. So up here, when you go to courses, we've got the iPad for students. This is, I call it almost like a boot camp to help students master some key apps. And there's all the syllabus there for you to see what they will learn about in that course. It's very practical, so the student would watch the video, they can pause it as many times as they need to, do the activities that are set there, and then I do ask them to send those back to me as well so they can get feedback. We've got the iPad Bootcamp for Teachers. This shows all of those same apps and their use in the classroom, but from the other side of them. And also it's very practical. We do ask that you do activities for those because we know that we all learn best by doing. And I've also got here Read and Write for Google. Read and Write software is outstanding. Read and Write is free for all teachers, and this teaches how to use the Google version of that software, again with practical activities. Here's the Read and Write for PC. There's also information here on touch typing. Every student today needs to learn to touch type from age 7 up. This is information about touch type read spell, which is my preferred program, and really ideas on how to get it started. I do believe that touch type read spell is running a 30% discount for what's going on with the coronavirus worldwide. And then this is where, if you do some of those courses, you can access the resources for all the activities that you need to do. And this is the shop where you can purchase those courses.